Hello and welcome everyone to Copy and Paste, the clean and family-friendly Reddit reading podcast. This is the 9th episode of r/PettyRevenge. And guess what? You probably saw the title. I'm hosting a giveaway. Now, it's not a big thing. It's just 2 Reddit Platinum Awards, but if you want to win it, the link is in the description. Good luck, and thank you for joining me. Okay, let's get started. And the first post by an NSFW account. So I was hired to make an advertisement for this cosmetic startup. I normally don't accept local clients because I have a lot of crappy experience with them. But this client sounds like she's willing to pay for my service. So I accepted her. I actually didn't charge that much. I only charge her $60 per week. And on average, I charge a foreign client $300 per week. The first 2 weeks were good. She had provided me with every material I needed to make an effective advertisement despite her limited budget. However, we began having an argument in week 2. She is suddenly demanding our ads should have at least 1,000 clicks per day, which is absolutely absurd because her budget only allows her to have around 1,200 reaches per day. I told her that for it to be possible, she should increase her budget. Suddenly, she called me a fraud, despite my ads having at least 300 clicks per day, and now she refused to give me her payment. For the last 2 weeks, she's ignoring my call. This weekend, I think my number is blocked. Stupid her because she didn't remove me from her page. So I decided to be petty. Her ads are still running, so I decided to change it. I changed the pictures to a text post which says, "Don't buy from this. This owner refused to give me my salary." An irate VA, she called me a fraud for not meeting her absurd expectation. I also included screenshots of our conversation to back it up. I did it last night, and I'm sure any moment she will contact me. But I'm done with her. That's $120 she owes me is hers to keep. As for me, I'm not accepting local clients anymore. I'm just done with them. And an update. So yesterday, around 4 p.m, I checked the ads, and apparently it reverted back to the original ones. Then, a few minutes later, my account now says account error, which means the payment method is cancelled. I felt frustrated because I'm still not done yet being petty, but so I posted my story, anonymous, on a group called Social Media Marketing Philippines, as my way of venting out and subtly warning potential VAs that she'll hire. Naturally, people in that group are with me. This morning, I finally got a response from her. She's angry. Apparently, she saw my post and she threatened to sue me for defamation. No, I didn't specify which startup it is. I only mentioned it's a cosmetic company, and therefore she had nothing to hold her case. However, I have receipts that she hasn't paid me, and I told her that even though we have no written contract, our chat, which I kept, can be used against her. On top of that, I mentioned that my uncle is a regional judge, not a lie, and it came from a clan of politicians. Again, not a lie. Simply put, I have so much power to hold against her. At first, she didn't believe it, so I googled my grandpa's name, which led to a Wikipedia page. She went silent after. After probably an hour, I sent her a message, telling her it doesn't have to end this way. All she needed to do is to pay the wage she owed me, because otherwise I can use my family's influence to make sure her business will go bankrupt. She immediately sent my salary, I thanked her, and then blocked her. And the second post by user/NALORpod. About 10 years ago, when I was 19, I worked for a regional grocery store in the meat packing department. Pay was bad and I had second shift. I came in at 3 and left at 11. It wasn't a terrible job, all things considered. I had the meat room to myself so I could listen to music and really just not be annoyed by other employees. My duties when I showed up was to package more ground beef and other beef-based products and put them on the shelf. After 5, I also had to juggle working behind the deli counter. Well, shortly after getting hired, the boss of the meat department showed back from vacation, and I was the new guy. Everything was fine at the beginning, but I found when I would clock in the lady behind the counter. We'll call her V. Wouldn't be there, and there'd be a line. So I'd clock in, spend the first 30 minutes of my shift doing her job. No problem, I actually liked that position. Well, after the line was done, I would almost always see Mr. Boss staring me down angry. I'm not doing my job. He would always give me a rant about doing my duties unless customers needed my help. and they almost always did, but he wouldn't listen. Come to find out, the reason V isn't behind the counter is because her and Mr. Boss are having meetings in his office with the door closed. Not my husband or wife, not my problem. We continue this dance of me covering her station and getting in trouble for it for a few weeks, until an ice storm hits. I tell my boss I can't take my car out and I'm waiting on a ride, so I might be a little late. He proceeded to fire me because this is the last straw. By the way, I hadn't had any write-ups. I agree that it's fine because I hate the job anyway. Fast forward 2 years, I'm 21 and I'm celebrating with my friends at basically the only local bar in this terrible, tiny crap hole town. And when we walk in, who do I see? Why, if it isn't Mr. Boss and not V, but his wife. He looks at me and tries to act like it's a happy coincidence. I sit down, tell him it's my 21st. He buys me a beer as a gift, and I chat him up. Enter my revenge. I introduce myself to his wife and tell her how he treated me, talking about how I would cover the deli counter almost every shift for half an hour, and then get in trouble for it because it wasn't my job. No matter how many times I tried telling my Mr. Boss I wouldn't have to cover the deli if he and V weren't having their daily locked door meeting in his office. She looked at him, looked at me, and couldn't say a word. It could be read as crappy, but his wife was super polite and friendly, and not in that crappy southern religious style, but genuinely a nice person. I'm glad I could pull the wool, tell her to know her husband is a complete garbage person. And the third post by user /armindoll27. So basically, my cousin parked his car on my driveway, and he's blocking my work truck. He parked on my driveway because he didn't have a residential parking permit to park on my street. However, he parked directly behind me instead of the other side. When we have a 4-car driveway, he left from the local airport to avoid paying for parking. The worst part is that he took his keys with him on his trip. Also, I couldn't squirm my way out either. I have a 2500 Denali and a classic in the garage that I wouldn't consider damaging for this inconvenience. Moreover, he didn't ask for permission or even give a heads up. I literally woke up and saw him blocking my driveway, and I texted him to move his car. Then he told me he's in Texas and won't be back for a week. My cousin and I never established a real relationship. Our relationship is just superficial. Ultimately, I called my police department and had his crap towed. I don't intend on paying for this either. I have not notified my cousin about his car being towed. He will find out on Thursday. And the fourth post by user /Alina247. A co-worker that has consistently been lazy and tries to sabotage my workstation while the manager is working to show that someone is worse at their job than her, is routinely bringing in her dirty dishes for us to wash, thinking we wouldn't care or notice. She got in trouble for leaving half-filled mugs of coffee in the storeroom until they've curdled, so now she's dumping them for us to wash. I'm not paid to do her dishes, so I've taken to the habit that if I see him, I bin him. Surprisingly, she's not bringing in the dirty dishes anymore. And the fifth post by user /wildassedguess, it's in the description. When I was a student, I took temp jobs through the summer holidays to make ends meet, and I worked through an employment agency. I, male 19, was placed in an office full of catty women, way older than me, who made it clear from the outset that they didn't want me there, and were rude and isolated me. One of my jobs was to buy the coffee and load the coffee machine each morning and afternoon as necessary. Revenge was simple. For an entire week, I loaded decaf coffee and watched them slump, get snappy with caffeine withdrawal, and generally suffer a little bit. The next week, I loaded Lava Java by Taylor's instead and watched them run around like monkeys on crack. It was joyous. And the sixth and final post by an NSFW account. An old story I was reminded of recently, a little background. My old roommate was a daily regular at a bar less than a mile from our house. At the time, I liked to party too, and would often join in on the fun, but took time off when I needed it. Sometimes we would have a few folks at our place after the bar, which was a good time and didn't usually get too wild. but these after parties went late, and drunk people don't have any volume control generally. So it was Friday night after work, and she was getting ready to head to the bar per usual. I told her to sit tonight out as I was just drained from work. I asked her to please not bring the party home so I could catch up on sleep, and she said that it was fine. No problem. The problem became mine when the party came crashing in. Around 1 or so, more people than usual, more drunk than usual, music, yelling, shots, shots, shots. I didn't want to blow her up, so I just threw a silent fit, put in some earplugs, and went back to sleep eventually. I was pissed she had disrespected me like that. The next morning, I wasn't sure how to approach it, and then it hit me. She must have had a long night and needed some rest herself. Huh? So I decided I'd get some chores done at home, and engaged in a 7 a.m. cleaning spree. But first, I turned on my speaker, put it on full volume, placed it near her bedroom door, conveniently close to the bathroom I was cleaning, and pressed play. The song choice, Before I Forget, Slipknot. Immediately, she opened her bedroom door and looked so pissed. But I just decided to really lean in and essentially sang the words, "Good morning," in my most chipper voice, in yellow cleaning gloves. I spent a couple hours cleaning and rocking out, and she slept till 3 because she really needed to catch up on some sleep. When she woke, I asked her to clean up from the party last night. And unfortunately, that was it for today. If you enjoy this podcast, I'd greatly appreciate for you to like and subscribe. To listen to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, one of many more platforms, or to visit any of my socials, click the Linktree link in the description, and please feel free to send me an audio message or leave a comment. It's been a pleasure. Goodbye. I also really need to shorten up my intro. This is painfully long.